You really kind of made my day today.
Was there much else, I mean, happening that was related to civil rights today that like there
Yeah,
was
this
news?
was like kind of interestingly right on point, right? A civil rights complaint, 1964 Civil Rights Act complaint on Martin Luther King's birthday. Pretty, was that intentional timing or is that
Well,
just
I've been researching this for a while and just trying to carve out time to do it, and it's not gotten done. I've kind of known what I had to pull together, but it just wasn't happening. And so I thought, what better thing to work on this weekend than this? And so I did. I just plugged away, and it came together, and it got filed 5 minutes before 5 p.m. to get
okay?
under the wire, and I
Uh,
submitted them, and we'll see where it goes.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm no lawyer, so, and I read it and I thought it sounded pretty good, right? And it's a civilian level complaint, right? It's not something that you
Correct.
necessarily need a lawyer to do,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Anybody could file such complaints, and you don't, and usually with those kind of complaints, you don't have to spell it out in strict legalese. You say, here's my interpretation, here's where I believe it goes wrong.
Right.
Then lawyers at the different departments and places will figure
Right.
it out.
They'll
Right.
have to, they'll have, I think that I did filed one with RIDOT and one with RIPTA.
Mhm.
They both have Title VI complaint forms and procedures.
Right.
So I thought I would file them both. And I think that RIDOT, they have like 180 days to respond to you, I think it is.
Okay. Well, that's
I
a
don't,
long
and I
time.
have to go back and look at the RIPTA one, but the point is that we want to get a conversation going in the community about this
Right.
and acknowledge where this plan has failed in terms of involving um, community stakeholders.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I do remember, and I put this, I wrote up, I read through all this stuff, and I do remember that the, what is it, the Association of
Oh, the
Planners,
American Planning Association.
right? American Planning Association had already made like some of that stuff. They said it, but it violates their stuff, but they said it was kind of a racist plan and
Yeah.
also
Oh, yeah.
anti-poor,
Yeah.
right?
It was probably one of the best letters that I've seen. They submitted that. That was back in, I think it was in early December or
Right.
maybe November that they filed. November, it was in November. But really very powerful letter.
Right.
And I thought we have to, pull all these things together, use the content of it because it's really good. It's
It
good
was
content.
it was an extraordinary letter too because it was so forceful and so compelling. I mean, it came from this like association, and and I thought, well, a national association of planners coming out with this is pretty interesting,
No, it's the Rhode Island chapter, and
right?
they have complete control over it. But they've got a new EDI committee, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Mhm.
And this was I think one of the first things that they really took on
Right, right.
as a committee. So yeah,
And
I thought it was really well done.
it's very important. So I just had a few questions, and it's really just about different aspects of it. Like in your complaint, you laid out like a sort of a timeline of how this plan hit the public. And can you explain? And it doesn't go back before this plan hit the public. It doesn't go into like the early days of, let's say, where I think the Raimondo administration would like to pick it up, which is like the vote on um,
The bond referendum.
the bond referendum, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's where they would like to pick it up and say this is when it began. But you kind of skipped all that because your take is that that's not really where it began. This plan came in long after that. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah. So sure, I'll be happy to do that. So you're right. The bond referendum for improving transit infrastructure passed in 2014.
Mhm.
But this latest plan by RIDOT was officially released by invitation, though, to a number of groups beginning on July 16th.
Right.
And that was the first time that I saw it. And I had immediate concerns. And then other people started to see it in different forums. And that's when we said, this, by the way, follows the year previous to this when they proposed the tunnel under Washington Street. And that sort of just collapsed under its own weight and it went away. They went back to their drawing board. They came out with this one. They released it on July 16th.
Right.
So we pick it up from that because what we're saying is that they've taken steps since the very first step on July 16th, advancing a plan that did not involve the public or the riders in the scoping of that plan or in the formulation of that plan.
Right.
And
Right.
that goes against all the guidance and objectives of Title VI.
Right. Right.
So we called them out on each one of them, and it was important to list the chronology because there've been a number of things that have happened along the way, and yet the administration has just sort of dug its heels in and stuck with this, despite the Providence City Council having a public hearing. I mean, RIDOT and RIPTA were really bound to have a public hearing, and neither of them had an official advertised public hearing.
Right. Right.
They had a RIPTA. I mean, to their credit, RIPTA takes public comment at every board meeting, which is good. But this was not an advertised public hearing to alert people and riders to the fact that we're considering major changes to the central hub in downtown Providence. And here is your notice to be heard. And we're going to have a hearing on such and such a date. And it's advertised and it's promoted. None of that happened. But the city council did it.
Right. Oh, the city council is.
And they got an earful.
They did, and they honestly they got a lot of crap from me and from other people, even about what they did to city council, and kind of undeserved, I think, in retrospect. They were they really did unanimously approve.
Yeah,
Opposition, right? Opposing the plan,
and that didn't affect the administration. The administration just continued to plow forward. And
then so the administration's way for a while. I remember Barville. The power plant in Barville is a really good example where the town council came out against it. Every single environmental group in Rhode Island came out against it. Legal challenges and tons of people constantly coming out against it. And in the end, they lost that bid, but they never gave up. Even as you say, well, I'm neutral on it. We'll let the process play out. And there was people from Raimondo's administration in the room with the EFSB, yes. Yeah. Constantly pushing for the plan to be done. So this is not this is just the Raimondo administration way of doing these kinds of
pattern
unpopular projects. Yeah. One thing that occurred to me, and it wasn't addressed to this, and this is probably off subject, but with a change in governor coming now, do you think there might be a more receptive ear from the new governor?
I think so. I think so because Lieutenant Governor McKee is going to inherit this mess.
Yeah,
and it's it's going to be his administration. So that's next up on the to-do list is to get a briefing letter to the Lieutenant Governor and to seek a 30-minute Zoom meeting with some key stakeholders to provide a briefing. I think at the end of the day, what we really want to do is to highlight the fact that there is a path forward here. There's a path forward to achieve the two goals that everyone seems to want to achieve, which is to improve Kennedy Plaza as a public space,
right?
But to also improve the transit function and the transit experience in downtown.
Yep.
We can do those two things. The way that the administration has approached it has done one of, or is proposing to do one of those things, which is to enhance Kennedy Plaza. But we feel that it's counterproductive to transit operations, and it's gonna bring more harm to people who use transit, make it more difficult for people. And this is money that was voted on to improve transit, not to make it worse.
I know that when I voted on it personally, I voted to improve transit. Yeah. And I was a big time bus rider then. I have a car now because of things like going to Barville in the middle of the night. But at the time, I did the first 5 years of my work as a reporter by bus, right? Everywhere I need to go, I went by bus.
You know that it's not always very easy because of schedules, and it's going to take you oftentimes twice as long to get where you're going as it would if you had taken a car.
Right. It was or longer. And also there was long waits outside in the cold sometimes. I'd be in South Providence at a meeting. Yeah. I would leave, walk to Broad Street, and I'd be waiting for a long time to get a bus.
With the camera and the equipment. And,
everything strapped to my back. Yeah, right. So I mean, I love the bus, and I think it's important that it work well. And I would love to see it work better. Let me think if I have, I know I had more questions, but I think what I'm wondering is, does this now turn potentially into a lawsuit? Like
Potentially, we had some discussion, not me personally, but folks within our coalition had some discussion with the ACLU,
Mhm.
and I think that they took some interest in it, but they also needed to see if they were if you're going to do a lawsuit, there needs to, the person who is initiating the lawsuit needs to have standing,
Mhm.
and it wasn't clear if we were advocating on behalf of an entire class of people. Um, but we've also got a partner now. We've got a partner in this complaint with Dwayne Keys
Yes.
with the South Providence Neighborhood Association. And so now that we've reduced this to writing, I'd like to revisit the conversation with the ACLU and see if they would have any interest in pursuing it legally. That's one
Right.
thing. The second thing is that we're putting this on the radar of the Federal Transit Administration Region 1 office in Boston. They deal with this day in and day out, and my hope is that it causes them enough discomfort that they pick the phone up and call RIDOT and say, "What are you doing?
Right. Right.
You need to, you guys are better than this. You need to work with people. You can't just ignore them
Mhm.
and go back to the drawing board."
Optimally, these types of things turn out to be, you exhaust all other remedies before you go to a lawsuit. So
Right.
optimally, at some point of the right call from the feds or from someone will stir somebody's conscience and say, hold on, let's do this the right way.
Right.
And honestly, we're talking about a 6 month to 8 month delay if we do it the right way. If we started right now and said, okay, throw this plan away, let's redevelop it, we could do a series of meetings. We could have some kind of concrete plan that satisfies everybody in a short time, right?
Yeah. 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 No, there's no doubt that we can do it. If there's a commitment on the part of the administration, we're offering to help. We can get that done. I mean, in fact, ARIP has been hired by the city to do the visioning of all the connected public spaces downtown, including Kennedy Plaza and Water Place Park and the tunnels that go under to Water Place Park. So, I participated in they had one listening session with the public just before Christmas.
Mhm.
I sat in on that. There was a lot of people who spoke up about the importance of transit. They were fearful that transit was going to be removed, and they heard it loud and clear.
Right.
But they're going through a process as well. So, my default is to go back to, as a starting point, the city's 2018 plan for redoing Kennedy Plaza.
Mhm.
That was a very public process, uh, very well run by the city, a lot of community engagement, and it narrowed down the options that the city considered to one that most people could sign on to.
Right.
Was it, did every group say, "Oh, that's the absolute best thing"? That's what no, but everybody said, "Yeah, no, that we can work with that. That'll work."
Yeah, I think that's what we want here also. We want something that everybody can sort of say,
Right,
okay, this is great, without turning a large number of bus riders into like, persona non grata, right? You're
right,
not wanted
right,
here,
right.
go way out there and stay away from
So
downtown.
that's already right within our grasp. That was a plan that was fully vetted by the public. It was vetted by the city. Um, and I'm not saying it has to be exactly that, but we
Yeah.
have a good jumping off place to say, you know, if you want to, if you want something that works for Kennedy Plaza and that works for transit, we have something to start with. And
Okay.
then do we want to, do we need to make some adjustments and tweaks to it? Maybe. Can we get Arab to take a look at that and to see what they might do differently with that as the starting point? Sure, that makes good sense.
All right. And
But
just for
what
clarity,
RIDOT's putting forward is just not going to work.
yeah, and just for clarity, when you say Arab, what is that?
I'm sorry. So Arup is the company that the city hired
That's the company. Yeah,
um,
I know that now. Okay, yes.
to do to sort of facilitate
Mhm.
the visioning for the public spaces. And it's when the governor did the press event with um, Director Alviti and Scott Avedisian and the mayor,
Yes.
the governor was saying, we're gonna sort of turn over the the Kennedy Plaza portion of this to the city and let the city, um, run the public engagement. And then I think what they're doing is they're hoping that ARIP will provide to RIDOT some thoughts on where the bus stops could go, how best they could be situated, because RIDOT did just an awful job of locating them in front of the Biltmore, and then the other one way on the opposite side near the post office. And so I think that they were willing to consider what ARIP brought to the table.
Mhm.
It hasn't happened yet. And so I think that there's still an opportunity to course correct this, get it on a path that will work, check the boxes, involve people, do it the right way. And I think we can get this done. But as it stands right now, we still have our work cut out. We've got to, I'm hoping that this transition of leadership in the governor's office presents an opportunity for the incoming governor to say, all right, time out.
Right.
Let's figure out. That's why I think this complaint may be helpful to him, because it lays it out in a chronology. And we're saying, we'll come to the table. We'll bring others to the table, and we'll work with you to get this done right.
Cool. Well, here's hoping. And thank you very much. And thank
You're
you for your
welcome.
time. Anything I
Yeah.
should have asked I didn't, or anything you can think of I should have brought up?
No, I think that it's all pretty much in the letter. I can't think of anything that's not in the
Yeah.
complaint that I should highlight. So I
Nope,
think
it was
that I
really- it was a really
appreciate
good letter. I really enjoyed it.
your quick
It was
response.
very good. It was
All
very
right.
good. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, Steve, take care.
All right.